my name is Emma, and today I am going to be reviewing Our Own Private Universe by Robin Talley. This book was sent to me by Harlequin Teen for review, so thank you so much, Harlequin, for providing me with a copy of this book. But of course, as all of my reviews go, you guys know that this is going to be my true and honest opinions. Just as a fair warning, the main character in this book has a name that I'm incapable of pronouncing. They go over the wrong pronunciations in the book all the time, but I still have not been able to grasp a correct pronunciation, so I'm going to call her Akai. So this book follows 15-year-old Akai, who is traveling to Mexico with her youth group, her father, who is their pastor, her brother, her friends, as well as a bunch of other youth groups from Maryland. They are going to Mexico on a missions trip. So Akai has been questioning her sexuality for some time now. She identifies as bisexual, and at this church youth group, the meeting of all of these different people, she meets a girl named Krista, who is older than her, she's more experienced, and she's also bisexual. And so Akai has been in this rut where she feels like she's not doing enough in her life, and she wants to do more and test out all of these theories that she has about life, and she feels that kind of getting involved with Krista might be a good way for her to do that. This is also an Own Voices LGBTQIA book. I believe the author is bisexual herself, so it's definitely an important, diverse read, and I was super excited to pick it up from the beginning. I ended up giving Our Own Private Universe 5 out of 5 stars. I truly love this book. I had so much fun reading it. It was emotional. I learned a lot. It was an all-around really wonderful reading experience. This review is going to be totally spoiler-free, so you don't have to have read Our Own Private Universe in order to discuss the book with me, but hopefully at the end of this video you'll want to go out and pick it up. But without further ado, here is my review. So like I said, this is an LGBT plus novel. It follows 2 bisexual main characters. A lot of questioning about sexuality, about relationships with women is in this book. As a straight person, I can't tell you if the rep is good or not. I can only tell you my interpretation of what I've learned from reading other LGBT books or doing my own personal research. So I don't really have a claim to representation in this novel, but I will say I really enjoyed how sexuality is portrayed in this book, especially in a very heavy church setting. It was really nice to see such a positive view of sexuality from an overwhelming amount of people. There are 2 really wonderful coming out scenes in this book that are so wonderful. They elicit almost all positive responses, and they were just a pleasure to read. A lot of this book has to deal with Akai questioning herself and her sexuality, so she goes through the motions of discovering different things, like what does it mean if I like girls in addition to boys? Do I have to like one more than the other? Do I have to like them equally? Do I really like girls as a population, or do I just like this one girl? There's a lot of self-reflection that I think could be really helpful to somebody who is going through the same thing. While the characters in this book are on a missions trip in Mexico, they are actually coming up on a conference where the overarching congregation of, I think it's Holy Life, they're going to decide how they would vote on certain popular issues, gay marriage obviously being one of them. Because this is a teen young adult book, a lot of the teens are very open-minded. There are additional side characters from the LGBT community, but while they are discussing gay marriage, there's a lot of important messages that come across in that discussion at the conference. Throughout the story, Akai and her friends have kind of created this debate in order to help people form their opinions on different topics related to this, like marijuana legalization, war, universal health care. And so they have one person speak on the pros and cons of each issue, and there is actually an LGBT individual who speaks on the negative side, kind of playing devil's advocate. And I think the way she goes about it is fantastic. She doesn't take what you would probably consider a stereotypical Christian approach to gay marriage. She really focuses on making the distinction between gay marriage movement and the equal rights movement, because they are not the same thing. While both these topics are very important, it's crucial that we don't kind of use them synonymously. The movement for gay marriage is not the same as the movement for equal rights, and it's important that we push for equality and we fight for both of these individually. So I just feel it was all around a very positive outlook. It offered a lot of insightful information and good viewpoints that I really enjoyed reading about. There is something that I've seen floating around on mostly book Twitter about this book that I do want to address, so I have to rant a little bit. It's not about the content of the book, because like I love the book, but I just want to clarify some things because I've noticed a lot of omission when people talk about this book. And again, it's on the topic of LGBT rep, and I can't speak for it. I'm not attempting to speak for it. You are allowed to be confident in your own opinions. Your feelings are validated. I'm just trying to offer up the most information that I can as a reviewer in order to kind of clear the air and let you guys form your own opinions. If you're bisexual and you still aren't happy with what you've heard about the rep, that's totally cool. But I just need to say some things. There has been some talk around the release of this book that it feeds into the stereotype of bisexual individuals are cheaters. This is obviously a very harmful trope that I do not agree with. I went into reading this book with the intention of speaking about how this trope is portrayed, and I was ready to let you guys know about it, but honestly, I personally don't see it in the way other people have. Talk of this trope has come about because Krista, who is Akai's love interest in this book, has a boyfriend. Well, at a glance that sounds bad, but I do want to read you some textual information to just like prove what I'm trying to say. The thing about Steven to me, Steven being Krista's boyfriend, is that we are taking a break for the summer, and Akai questions what that means, and she essentially says, so since I was coming down here, we decided we'd take the summer off from our relationship so we could see other people for a little while if we wanted to, I mean. So Krista very clearly states she's on a break from her relationship. They're allowed to see other people, they agreed upon it, and we kind of have to take that as true unless there is something else in the book that makes us suggest otherwise, which I do not see whatsoever. So I take it as they're on a break. And so from there, I guess you could say, well, what about the trope that bisexuals are non-monogamous? Which is an equally valid trope for us to discuss, but again, I have some textual evidence that I feel challenges that trope that I want to read. Across this story, Akai does a little bit of research on bisexuality. She looks it up in the internet, and she comes across a web page that says, one common myth is that bisexual people must be in simultaneous relationships with both men and women to be sexually satisfied. Another is that bisexuals are promiscuous. In fact, many bisexual people may be perfectly happy in monogamous relationships. So I just wanted to take a bit of time in the beginning of this review to address that because it's such a hot topic in the community, and I feel representation is very important, and when people have been talking about bisexual rep in this book, if they feel that those tropes are expressed, they have not been including that extra information. So I just wanted to make it clear that I believe they're challenged, but again, I'm straight, I don't have a claim to bisexual representation, so if you feel differently, that's okay. I just wanted to make that as clear as possible. But overall, I was really happy with the representation in this book. It seemed very healthy. There were a lot of positives to the discussions that were going on about it, and that's something that's really important to me. The only thing that kind of set me off about it was throughout the book, Akai and her best friend Lori kind of use the terms bisexual, lesbian, and gay pretty much interchangeably at certain points. I don't know how much of a problem that is to LGBT individuals, but at the end of the story, Lori does say something about Akai being a lesbian, and she says, no, I'm bisexual. So even that is challenged and transforms throughout the book. So I think it really just has to do the fact that she was questioning herself and trying to find a label that fit her most, but it eventually, she decides that she identifies as bisexual. Another really big positive about this book was it talks about sex, and it talks about safe sex, and it talks about girl-on-girl sex. I've discussed on my channel before how I feel the view of sex in YA is very skewed. It follows a lot of the same tropes, and it's not very healthy. I feel like this book is a much better, healthy representation of what sex in teenagehood or adolescence is really like. This book stresses the importance of using protection, which a lot of books don't do, so that alone is fantastic. But it's not even just about safe sex, it's about safe sex for women as well, and women who are going to be involved in relationships with other women. So like I said, Akai at one point in the book, she's doing some research online, and she actually takes the incentive to look up how do girls have sex with each other, and she is filled with resources on things like dental dams and gloves, and as Krista and Akai have a sexual relationship, they use the protection in the book, and that was a really great thing to see. I just feel this theme is so important. I'm glad that we have more YA novels that are coming out talking about sex and adolescence as well as the need for protection, and I just thought it was really well done. And to kind of tie the LGBT rep as well as safe sex together, a lot of this book felt very inclusive to me. So in the same scene where Akai is doing research on sex and bisexuality, she comes across a passage that says women who have sex with other women don't have to worry about pregnancy unless one of those women has a penis. See our section on safer sex for transgender and non-binary folks here. In all of my studies of adolescence, of health and sex and safety and everything, I don't think I've ever seen anything that was more inclusive to trans and non-binary folk, and there are just passages like that all throughout the book that are just really inclusive, and I loved that aspect. It was so refreshing to see. On the church culture aspect of this book, because like I said, they are all from different youth groups, they're in Mexico on a missions trip, they're doing things in name of their faith. I personally really liked this aspect. Religion is like a taboo topic in YA for some reason. Nobody ever writes books about it. And as somebody who spent a lot of my adolescence in church, in youth group, really practicing my faith. It was really awesome to see a book I could identify with in that way. As I stated before, I feel this congregation is really open-minded and tolerant, and I liked seeing that view in a book. As somebody who always wanted to go on a missions trip as I was younger, it was just really cool to see a lot of people actually doing it. I've seen some reviews where people were like they felt the drama was too much, but as somebody who came from a youth group full of drama, I think a lot of their actions were very realistic. There's a ton of drama, there's a ton of talking behind each other's backs. There's just so many problems that occurred in my youth group, so this is why it seemed totally normal to me. There were a few things I was like, I don't know how much this would fly, but maybe that's just because my youth leaders were like on top of us all the time, so we didn't have as much freedom as they do in this book, but that's no big deal. I really enjoyed that aspect of the book. As characters go, I really loved Akai. I just felt that her story is such an inspiration. She makes mistakes, like everyone in this book makes a ton of mistakes, but I feel Akai is very individual. She's working towards bettering herself, and she just wants to do good by the people she loves in her family. She has this conflicted relationship with music. She really loves it, but she's gone through a bad experience that makes her not be as adamant about pursuing that passion anymore. So that was a really interesting kind of journey to watch from her perspective. Krista's another really interesting character. I feel like her and Akai complement each other very well despite all the issues they go through in this book. Her parents are also part of their congregation, and they are extremely conservative. They would not be accepting of Krista's sexuality if she were to come out to them, so she kind of lives in fear and has to kind of do everything that they ask. She wants to be a cook. She's really involved in photography, but she can't really open up to her parents about it, so it was nice being able to see those passions kind of come through through this experience over the summer. I think the only negative I have about this book is that I just didn't like how everyone lied. Oh my goodness, Akai lies, her brother lies, her father, the pastor, lies, Krista lies, Laura lies, like everyone lies. Lying is a common thing. A lot of adolescents do it, but it was just so excessive, and I'm like, why are you lying to these people that you care about? It would be so much easier if you were to come clean. You're just causing so many problems because you're not being truthful. It was a little frustrating, but I don't think it overtook the story in any way. I was just like yelling at my book like, why are you doing this to yourself? You're subjecting yourself to so much unnecessary drama because you just don't want to tell the truth. But overall, I really loved Her Own Private Universe. I would definitely recommend it to anyone who is looking for a cute summer romance novel, a book about questioning your sexuality or LGBT rep. I really, really loved it. I'm so thankful I had the opportunity to read it, and it's definitely one that's going to be sticking with me for a long time. Let me know in the comments of this video if you read Her Own Private Universe and what you thought of it, or if you're planning on picking it up, if you're excited to read it. I would love to know. But that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you soon for a new one. Bye!